Hello and welcome to the 1/106 of a second photography podcast. This episode is entitled It Finally Happened. Something happened to me at the weekend which I'd been expecting to happen for some time. It never happened before. I knew it would happen with some certainty, and this weekend it did happen. In fact, it was yesterday. So I was not given my knighthood as I'd been expecting. I didn't win £10 in a beauty contest. I didn't get my PhD, none of those things. Instead, I was approached by a security guard for allegedly taking photos and told not to do it. And I knew this would happen one day. It was only a matter of time. It was always a certainty. It was my destiny that I would be stopped by a security guard for photography or video related matters. And yesterday I was. So let's go and have a bit of background. How did I get there? What does it mean? What should you do? Should you worry about it? Let's go over that. Let's start with the background. So I had a new camera and I was out making a review video with the new camera. I was taking, it's primarily a video camera, so I was taking video, but it has the facility for stills, so I was taking still photographs. I really like it for stills, actually. It's really good for stills, but I won't get into what it was and anything like that. So I was doing like a tour of near where I live. So I was doing like a promotional video using it. I thought it'd be a good way to do a review. You'd have to watch the review to understand what I was trying to do and why I was trying to do it. And the review hasn't been made yet. So I ended up in a shopping centre that is partly covered and partly not covered. It's a bit of a strange shopping centre. You couldn't call it an enclosed shopping centre. You couldn't call it an outdoor shopping centre. It was a strange hybrid of the two. And I was filming like a shop, not in a creepy way, just to show that the shop is there. Again, part of my video. It will be obvious when you see it. It's like, oh, that's a good shop. That's a very prestigious shop, and this is where I live. That's what I was trying to show. So a little security guard came along, and he was little. He was much shorter than me, as they often are. I'm fairly tall. So he was immediately on the back foot, and he said, "Have you been taking photos?" And I said, "Well, yes, I have." Again, I didn't have a tripod with me. I didn't have a big setup. I had a very small camera because that's what I'm reviewing. And by this point, it had gone in my pocket. It was that small, it could fit in my pocket. And he said, well, you can't. Now, let's stop right there. Really, the security guard has no powers at all. They're not policemen. They can't arrest me. They can't claim anti-terrorism laws or anything like that. I wasn't in a place where if someone was recorded being there, it would cause undue distress. So I wasn't like outside a gay bar or anything like that, or a gay nightclub or anything like that, where someone being there or being seen to be there would cause a problem. I was in a shopping centre. I was in a public place. But anyway, the security guard said, "You can't take photos here." And my response was, "Well, where does it say that?" And he said, he sort of explained, down there's some blue signs and it says what our policy is. And our policy is that you cannot take photos of others, but you can take photos of yourselves. So it was almost as though they'd acknowledged that there are selfies and, there's no way around it. Now, I wasn't using a mobile phone. So had I been using a mobile phone, I do wonder whether I'd even would have been stopped. But I was stopped and I said, well, I'll go and look at that then. And I walked off. I wasn't detained. No one asked me to delete my footage. And then I went and found the blue signs. I couldn't see anything that said you can't take photographs here in the signage I was directed to. And part of it is, if there is some policy that you can't take photos, well, there's an element of common sense. There's an element of what's in the law, and there's an element of, if you don't know something because they haven't advertised it, well, you're always going to fall foul of it anyway. So I went and had a look. Long and short of it, there was nothing to say I couldn't take photos. And regardless of what it said, I would have carried on anyway. So I finished what I was doing and then I went. Actually, because I was interrupted, I didn't finish exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to get another shot of something, and I only realised when I got home that I didn't get it. That's because I walked off to go and look at this sign, and there we are. So well done, security man. You ruined what I was doing. But no one was harmed. You know, there was nothing wrong with it. And you have to check for your country. But in the UK, if you're on public property, you can take photos and videos of stuff. There are certain times you can't. There are, you would get yourself in trouble, I think, if you were taking pictures of, things to do with police or sensitive matters or military bases. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just in a shopping centre. There was nothing untoward at all. But I've always known that I would be stopped by security guards at some point. They can't tell the difference. They don't use any common sense. They're told not to. They enforce a policy that is ultimately unworkable. So that was that. And, surprise, surprise, nothing came of it whatsoever. Had he demanded that I delete my footage, I would have said, no, I'm not deleting them. And ultimately, what would he have done? He could only have called the police, who probably would have said, well, there's no reason to delete this footage. There's a policy apparently that no one can see. He didn't know that before he started. And so I wouldn't have thought anything would come of it. But what should you do if you're in that position? Because you will be in that position. I think the first thing to do is probably not walk around with loads of gear. If you turn up with a tripod, a huge microphone, your light stand, your umbrellas, you're going to attract attention. That wasn't me. I had a very small camera. I'm just trying to work out. It's smaller than my hand, smaller than a Micro Four Thirds body. I'm not even including a lens. It's smaller than the body, not including the lens. So don't attract attention, but also I think know your rights. Just because someone with a jacket on tells you something, or someone in a high vis tells you something, it doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. You can take photographs of things as a member of the public. You get in difficulties if you were to try and sell them, but I wasn't trying to sell them. So, for example, if I went to London and I went to the Tower, I stood somewhere and I took a picture of the Tower of London, well, no one's going to stop me doing that. I haven't broken any laws. If I tried to sell the picture, I might have difficulties because I don't own the copyright, although I very much doubt that, but you get what I'm talking about. Interestingly, the security guard was filming me. So he had on a body cam that was filming me. So it was complete hypocrisy. You can't film here, but I'm going to film you. Now, of course, I could have been really obtuse. I could have got my phone out and filmed myself because that was within their policy. But what was the point? What was the point having an argument? So I wasn't happy to see him, but I said, oh, where does it say that? And I said, I will go and have a look. I wasn't rude. He wasn't rude to me, because if I'm confrontational, it's only going to make things worse, even if I know I'm right. So I was polite, and I would recommend that you are polite. Now, security guards, they might say this is private property, and because it's private property, we don't allow photos here. So let's go back to my example of a building. Stand outside a building in London on a footpath, a public footpath. Well, you can take a picture of whatever you want. Go into the building and maybe they've got a point. But if you can get in the building, it can't be that private, if that makes sense. So a security guard cannot detain you and take your property off you for the purposes of deleting photos or anything like that. It's a grey area, very much, and they know it. But most likely them approaching you, if they approach most people, they're probably going to stop what they're doing simply because they're being bothered like I was. So sadly, I lost my train of thought and I was going anyway, so I went. So I knew it would happen. It has happened. It did happen. It wasn't the big thing everyone makes out it is, but yeah, it's happened. And I hope you listening to my story about this innocuous security guard telling me that I've broken their policy will help you when it comes to you dealing with security guards hassling you about taking a photo of whatever. Anyway, do all the liking and subscribing and listening to other things. And if that's been you, do let me know as well. Do try and leave a comment. Do try and get in touch because I'd love to know what you think. Thank you ever so much and goodbye.